Right, so today we're looking at the processes used in finPOWER Connect for deposit accounts, and this is session 2 of 2. So as we covered last week, deposits are investments by clients where funds are held by a finance company on deposit and with interest paid to the client or reinvested in the deposit. We'll start off with some examples of the more complex scenarios like income distribution and using pools, and then move on to opening the deposit and some of the deposit-specific features on the accounts themselves, such as things like pending investments, how to use them properly, and avoid unintentionally ending up with a deposit in a pending state on opening, and how to receive funds in for an investment and change it from additional investment to the initial investment and vice versa. So income distribution. As we briefly covered off last week, income distribution allows the finance company to distribute interest earned in an alternative method to a standard interest rate by entering a total and distributing across the relevant investments. It's designed for a different business model than your standard deposits and obviously depends on the finance company's business model, but here is an image overview of one example on how it can look. So a finance company has both loans and investments. They offer some varied income structure to investors and they lend out the invested funds to the borrowers, which is how the income is earned. They then calculate how much was earned in an agreed period and run the income distribution wizard to credit the earnings across the relevant investments. This is also where pools can be used to make the filtering of this process much easier, particularly if the finance company has a structure or business model where multiple portfolios of pools are in use. finPOWER Connect has this functionality in addition to the ability for an investment to earn interest based on a rate on the account, and is possible that a finance company may have a hybrid model or product that earns standard interest and gets income distribution as well. If they were to set up a pool in finPOWER Connect, this is what it may look like. Pools are administered via the Admin Pools menu where accounts can be added. The total for the deposits in the pool would normally be equal to or higher than the value of the loans if the purpose of the pool is to group invested funds and then lend them out again, like the model we just saw. For the income distribution itself, the process of distributing the required income is completed by running the Distribute Income wizard, which is found in the transaction menu. The first page, we enter the total of interest earned in the relevant period we're running for the wizard, for which is selected in the date field. In this case, we're covering 1 month. We deduct any relevant expenses such as running or administrative costs if applicable, and this figure will of course differ depending on the finance company's business model, etc. On the next page, we're able to filter by several different methods depending on what is relevant. In this case, we're going to select our pool to distribute the interest income across deposits only in that pool. Third, we'll check our list that only contains the relevant deposits and review how the income is being distributed. Adjustments can be made here if required, and as you can see, here is where the average daily balance comes in that we mentioned last week. Then we can go on to create our batch, selecting the relevant transaction type. And optionally, you can hit the print button down here to print this report. Once you're all done, you just click finish and the income is successfully distributed and committed. Nice and easy. It is important to note, however, that the transactions to physically pay out the funds won't be created and sent until the interest payout wizard is next run. So the interest payout wizard will pick up any interest payments due to be paid out that have not yet been sent out due to either being a distributed income source or the interest payment date has fallen on a weekend or public holiday and they don't have the option to roll forward selected on the account type. Typically, this wizard would be run at least weekly, usually on a Monday, and will create the payments ready to be exported along with the finance company's other bank transactions. You can either export them directly after the wizard has been run or later using the Export Bank Transactions wizard. So if we have a quick look at this here, you could again choose to filter by pool if you wanted to, or you can run the wizard to find any that we've got sitting outstanding. Again, this wizard is really simple. Click finish, and you can either, once this is finished and it's been committed, you can either choose to export those payments now or leave it as part of your normal export bank transactions process. That wizard also covers if an investor decides to change their interest payment type from compound to direct credit, as an example, and if they don't choose to use the capitalise option at that point to capitalise the interest already accrued. On to something that comes through our support inbox quite a bit, which is deposit accounts open in a pending state with their original investment. Looking at this example here, we can see that the investment on the account is pending, which means no funds have been received. It's like having a loan with a credit limit but no advance. This means no interest can be accrued even though the account is open, because according to finPOWER Connect, there's no funds to accrue interest on. So this can be corrected in a few ways once the account is already open, but first we'll go through how to receive in the funds during the account opening process. In other words, in the new account wizard. So in this image here, you'll see we're on the financial page. Hopefully that's large enough. We've entered the details of the investment, but we can see a warning in the summary to say that it is pending. To record the way the finance company is receiving the funds, these need to be entered by drilling down into the opening investment transaction. So we'll launch the standard transaction wizard, which where on the first page, the element, frequency, value, reference, and notes can be changed. The element selected needs to have the underlying investment type, element type of investment, which may seem obvious, but there is also an additional investment type. Using the wrong type here will also result in the investment being left as pending. Though the account would still have an actual balance and earn interest, it just wouldn't look right, and the warnings would still show, and so on. Once the details are on the first page are correct, clicking next will take us to the payment details page itself. Here we can enter the way the funds are to be received. In this case, we're saying an automatic payment has been received for 150,000. Once we click finish, we're returned back to the new account wizard finance page. We can see here that the warning in the summary has gone and the value has been received in. We can now continue to open the account and it will not be pending. Looking at the account form comparison, the example on the right shows our example where we received the funds in, and the example on the left is an open account where they were not received in. We can see the warnings appear in the events block as well as on the financial page itself. Next, we're going to look at receiving funds in on a deposit because it is perfectly valid to open the account without the opening investment, particularly if the account opening if it has been opened in advance for other reasons prior to the funds being received. So there's two ways that this can be achieved, and it depends on the configuration of finPOWER Connect as to which will work for the finance company. For example, if you tick the option to include the investment type in the payment wizard on the transaction type, you could straight away receive an opening investment payment. However, there may be reasons why a finance company may not want their users to do this in case it is selected incorrectly. So by default, out of the box, the additional investment is the type readily available to receive funds on a deposit account, and investment for the account payment wizard is unticked. Receiving in a payment of additional investment can be completed using the Payment Received button on the account to launch the aforementioned account payment wizard. This, of course, does not clear the pending status or update the opening investment balance because its underlying type is additional investment. So in this scenario, to change the transaction to clear its pending state, we have a switch investment from additional to opening button. This is found on the transactions page, and all that needs to be done is selecting the relevant transaction, like in the image here, and clicking the button. Immediately, you'll notice that the type switches from additional investment to investment. If we then review the account again after this step, we can see that the opening investment is no longer pending.